The soft glow of laptop screens illuminated to faces in different dorm rooms, fingers hovering over keyboards, hearts racing with the intimate vulnerability that only anonymity could provide. Maya's fingers danced across her keyboard as she crafted another meme about the absurdity of campus dining hall food. Her anonymous Instagram account, @Campus had exploded to 50,000 followers in just 6 months, becoming the unofficial voice of student life at Riverside University. She thrived on the creative freedom that anonymity provided. No judgment, no expectations, just pure, unfiltered commentary on college chaos. Her phone buzzed with a direct message notification. It was from @QuiteObserver, a follower who'd been engaging with her content for weeks now. Unlike the typical lol or fire emoji responses, his messages were thoughtful, witty, and surprisingly deep. Your post about the library's silent floor being louder than a rock concert hit different today. I was trying to study romantic poetry there, and someone was literally having a full phone conversation about their weekend hookup drama. The irony wasn't lost on me. Wordsworth would have wept. Maya smiled, settling deeper into her dorm bed. There was something about this mysterious follower that intrigued her. His messages arrived like clockwork, always during her late-night posting sessions, always perfectly timed, as if he understood her creative rhythms. "Don't tell me you're one of those poetry majors who quotes Keats at parties," she typed back, adding a laughing emoji, guilty as charged. "Though I prefer Byron, more scandalous, less likely to put people to sleep. What about you, meme queen? What's your real passion when you're not exposing the harsh truths of campus life?" Their conversation flowed effortlessly into the early morning hours. He told her about his love for obscure indie films and how he spent most evenings in the back corner of the campus coffee shop, people watching and scribbling in a worn leather notebook. She shared her dreams of becoming a digital content creator, maybe even starting her own media company someday. "You're already creating content that matters," he wrote. "Your memes aren't just funny, they're building community. That's rare." Maya felt her chest warm. Nobody had ever described her work that way before. Most people, including her roommate, thought her anonymous page was just a silly hobby. Meanwhile, 3 floors down in Morrison Hall, Ethan stared at his phone screen, his heart hammering against his ribs. He'd been following @Campus since its early days, initially drawn by the clever humor, but lately captivated by glimpses of the person behind the account. Her late-night philosophical tangents between memes, her genuine care for campus issues, the way she made even mundane college experiences feel profound and connected. What she didn't know, what he could never tell her, was that he'd been watching her long before he discovered her online presence. Every Tuesday and Thursday in Professor Chen's contemporary poetry class, she sat in the 3rd row, always arriving exactly 2 minutes late with a large coffee and apologetic smile. He'd claimed the seat to rows behind her at the semester's start, content to admire the way she unconsciously tucked her dark hair behind her ear when concentrating, or how she'd quietly mouth along when someone read particularly beautiful verses aloud. He'd never spoken to her in person. Ethan had always been more comfortable expressing himself through writing than face-to-face conversation. But here, in the safety of anonymous direct messages, he could be the confident, articulate person he felt like inside. "I should sleep," Maya finally typed as her clock showed 3:47 a.m. "Early class tomorrow. Sweet dreams, meme queen. Thanks for tonight. Talking with you is the highlight of my days lately." As Maya drifted off to sleep, she wondered about the person behind @QuiteObserver. There was something familiar about his writing style, his references, the way he understood her humor so intuitively. But in a school of 30,000 students, finding him would be like locating a needle in a haystack. She had no idea that needle was sitting just 2 rows behind her, twice a week, falling a little more in love with both versions of her. 3 weeks later, Maya's carefully constructed anonymous world began to crumble. It started with a simple mistake, a screenshot she posted showing her phone's interface, complete with her real Instagram handle visible in the corner. Within hours, someone had connected the dots, and by morning, her identity was spreading across campus group chats like wildfire. "Maya Rodriguez is at Campus. Read the text her roommate showed her over breakfast." "No fucking way." Maya felt exposed, vulnerable in a way she'd never experienced. The protective barrier of anonymity that had allowed her to be fearlessly creative was gone. Now every meme, every observation, every late-night philosophical rambling could be traced directly back to her. Students approached her in the dining hall. Professors referenced her posts in class with knowing smiles, and her DMs exploded with follow requests from people she barely knew. But the message that made her heart sink came from that quiet observer. I saw the news about your identity. I understand if you want to keep some distance now that people know who you are. I just want you to know that getting to know you these past few weeks has been incredible. You're even more amazing than I imagined. Why would I want distance? She replied immediately. You've been the best part of this whole experience, because now you'll probably want to meet in person, and I'm not sure I'm ready for that. I'm not exactly the confident guy I seem like online. Maya stared at her phone, surprised by his vulnerability. In all their late-night conversations, he'd seemed so self-assured, so articulate and engaging. The idea that he struggled with confidence felt impossible. We don't have to meet until you're ready, she typed. But for what it's worth, I like the person you are online. I have a feeling I'd like to reel you just as much. Meanwhile, Ethan sat in their poetry class, watching Maya field congratulations and curious questions from classmates about her revealed identity. She handled the attention with grace, laughing off the praise while seeming slightly overwhelmed by the sudden spotlight. Professor Chen even opened class by acknowledging her digital contribution to campus discourse, which made Maya blush furiously. Ethan's stomach churned with a mixture of admiration and panic. Now that everyone knew who she was, his anonymous conversations with her felt different, more loaded, more real. The possibility of meeting in person, which had always been a distant fantasy, suddenly seemed inevitable. What if she was disappointed? What if the shy, awkward guy who could barely make eye contact in class was nothing like the confident correspondent she'd grown to care about? After class, as students filed out discussing weekend plans, Ethan lingered, pretending to organize his notebook while stealing glances at Maya. She was texting someone, a small smile playing at her lips. His phone buzzed. A message from her. I've been thinking about what you said about not being ready to meet. What if we did something low pressure, like, what if you came to the poetry reading at the Grind tomorrow night? You could stay anonymous, just message me if you're there. No pressure to introduce yourself. Ethan's hands trembled slightly as he read her message. The monthly poetry reading at the campus coffee shop was something he attended religiously, usually sitting in the back corner with his leather notebook, occasionally mustering the courage to share a piece. The idea of her being there, of possibly sharing the same space while she knew he was present, but not who he was, felt both thrilling and terrifying. I'll think about it, he replied, though he already knew he'd be there. That evening, Maya found herself unusually nervous about the next day's reading. She'd attended several before, mostly to support friends who performed, but tomorrow felt different. Somewhere in that room would be the person who'd become her closest confidant over the past month, the one who understood her humor, supported her dreams, and made her feel truly seen. She spent longer than usual choosing an outfit casual enough for the coffee shop's laid-back atmosphere, but nice enough to make a good first impression if they did somehow connect. As she fell asleep, she wondered if she'd recognize something in a stranger's eyes, some spark of familiarity that would reveal her mysterious correspondent. To floors down, Ethan lay awake crafting and discarding potential conversation starters, imagining scenarios where he might finally find the courage to bridge the gap between his online confidence and real-world shyness. Tomorrow night, he decided, would be the night he stopped hiding behind the screen. Neither of them slept particularly well, both knowing that everything might change in less than 24 hours. The grind buzzed with nervous energy as students gathered for the monthly poetry reading. Maya arrived early, claiming a small table near the front with a clear view of the room. Her phone sat on the wooden surface, waiting for a message from a quiet observer confirming his presence. She dressed in her favorite vintage band t-shirt and dark jeans, casual but confident, the kind of outfit that felt authentically her. Ethan entered through the back door, his usual leather notebook clutched against his chest like armor. He'd spent an hour getting ready, changing shirts 3 times before settling on a simple navy blue button-down that his sister had once said brought out his eyes. His hands shook slightly as he typed a message. "I'm here. Back corner table." As usual, Maya's heart leaped as she read his text. She casually scanned the room, her eyes settling on the back corner where a familiar figure sat alone. It was the quiet guy from her poetry class, the one who always arrived before her and left after, who occasionally shared breathtakingly beautiful verses in a voice barely above a whisper. Recognition dawned like sunrise, slow and then all at once. Her breath caught. It was Ethan Morrison, whose poems about longing and observation had moved her to tears more than once. Ethan, who she'd noticed because of his thoughtful contributions to class discussions, his gentle way of offering feedback to other students, his habit of unconsciously running his fingers through his dark hair when concentrating. The guy in the navy shirt, she texted back, her heart hammering, to rows behind me in poetry class. Ethan's phone screen blurred as he read her message. She'd figured it out. The careful distance he'd maintained, the anonymous barrier that had made him feel safe, it was gone. He looked up to find Maya turned in her chair, meeting his eyes directly for the first time all semester. Her expression wasn't disappointed or surprised, but warm, almost relieved. She stood up, weaving through the crowded tables until she reached his corner. "Mind if I sit?" "I thought you might be disappointed," Ethan said quietly, his voice carrying the same thoughtful cadence she'd come to love in his messages. "Disappointed?" Maya settled into the chair across from him, studying his face, the way his green eyes crinkled slightly when he was nervous, the genuine kindness in his expression. "Ethan, you've been sitting behind me twice a week all semester. I've heard your poems. I've watched you be gentle with other students when they share vulnerable work. Why would I be disappointed? Because I'm not exactly the confident guy from our messages. I can barely order coffee without stumbling over my words." Sometimes, Maya reached across the small table, her fingers brushing his. "But you are that guy. Maybe you're more comfortable expressing yourself through writing. But everything I've come to care about, your humor, your insight, your kindness, that's all real. That's all you." The poetry reading began, but neither of them paid much attention to the performances. Instead, they talked in whispers, finally bridging the gap between their digital connection and physical presence. Ethan shared why he'd started following her account, not just for the memes, but because her perspective on campus life felt honest and inclusive. Maya confessed that she'd noticed him in class, long before discovering their online connection, drawn to his quiet confidence when he shared his work. "I have a confession," Maya said as the evening wound down. "I kind of hoped it would be you. Really, there was something familiar about your messages, the way you wrote about poetry, your observations about campus life. It felt like someone who really saw things, really paid attention. That's rare." As they walked back toward the dorms together, Ethan felt a courage he'd never experienced before. Maybe it was the validation of her acceptance, or the way she laughed at his jokes with genuine delight. But for the first time, his online confidence seemed to be merging with his real-world self. "Would you maybe want to get coffee sometime?" he asked as they reached the point where their paths would diverge. "I mean, actual coffee, not just texting about coffee." "I thought you'd never ask," Maya grinned. "Though I have to warn you, I'm much weirder in person than I am online." "Good," Ethan said, his smile matching hers. "I was hoping you'd say that." 6 months later, Maya's Instagram bio read meme queen and girlfriend of it. Ethan writes _poetry. He's still quiet, still brilliant. Their relationship had become something of a campus legend, the anonymous meme creator and the shy poet who found each other through screens before finding each other in real life. They still sent each other messages sometimes, usually when they were sitting in the same room, just to remember how it all started. The magic of their digital connection hadn't disappeared with their real-world romance. It had simply evolved, adding new layers to their understanding of each other. Their love story proved that sometimes the best connections begin in the spaces between who we are and who we dare to be online, and that the most beautiful relationships happen when those two selves finally learn to coexist. What do you think? In an age where we often present curated versions of ourselves online, can digital connections create more authentic relationships than traditional face-to-face meetings? Or do they simply offer a different kind of authenticity that needs real-world validation to truly flourish?